I was thinking about this quote that I heard from Marianne Williamson, which goes, "You can have your story or you can have your healing, but you cannot have both." And I'm going to start with the story. I'm going to tell you what was required for me to get to the healing, which was such I'm still processing it. So let me just back up. The last time I spoke, I had mentioned that something happened in the 3D to basically wipe all of my funds. I had zero money in my accounts. I had a little bit of money in another account, and I'll explain a little bit more about what happened. So, all of a sudden, I am sitting in a cafe. I get a notification from my bank saying that my balance went below $100. And I thought that's weird because I knew how much money I had. So I called the bank. It turns out I the Department of Unemployment Benefits, back when the pandemic hit, basically placed a levy on my American account and took all of the money. It's saying that I owed over $14,000 of overpayment of unemployment during the pandemic because it was stating that I technically quit my job. I wasn't let go or something like that, which was like so shocking. This is over 6 years ago now. And, but my instinct was, oh, I know why this is happening. Once again, it's an opportunity, an initiation into showing me how am I going to move through something that feels like I have no power, right? So when I called and I'm finding out all this information that they've tried to send me notices that this, blah, 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 blah. Of course, I moved. I never received these notices. Like, how does this even happen? How is this even possible? Blah, blah, blah. And when you get into the story, because of course we have to go into the story, of course we're human, right? I started to get scared and I was like, what? And how can I do this? And what am I going to do? And my first thought about what I can do is I can appeal this, right? I have, the documentation that stated basically I was working for this very prominent gym as a yoga teacher. The pandemic hits, everybody gets furloughed. Then the club opens up again, maybe 3 months later, and then we all know what happens. It closes again, it reopens, it closes again. This happens multiple times. I initially went back when it first opened, and I was wearing the mask and the gloves. I mean, it was so bizarre to go back when we didn't know what was going on. Anyways, the second time it opened, I did not go back, and I let my manager know, and he was like, "No problem. I just said I didn't feel comfortable. I'm gonna wait it out, see what happens." He's like, "No problem. You let us know when you're comfortable. We'll get you right back in." Blah blah blah. I ended up not going back, but so much unfolded. I mean, it went on for years, right? So I ended up collecting unemployment. So thus, this is what happened. They're saying that whatever they're saying, I knew that that wasn't true. I appeal. I sent the information. I had a friend send it that was in the States, thankfully. And right away, I received notification that, okay, this is your online portal. We'll let you know when your appeal is. My appeal ended up being June 11th, right? I'm like, great. There's nothing I can really do about this situation. I've done what I can. I'm just going to trust that it all works out. It's all here for me, etc. Now I'm still moving through all of this in real time, still going, I don't know how this is going to work. La, la, la. Anyways, the second thing that happened was I talked about I was leaving this cat sit. I had very limited funds. I didn't know where I was going to go. Now, I had been in this very situation before over a year ago, actually, maybe 2 years ago when I first started this journey of surrender. So I knew, okay, we have to revisit certain patterns, certain circumstances again, right? So that we can use everything that we've learned up until this very moment to move through it differently. So things like feeling powerless, things like not abandoning myself, that was a big one. And I remember on the day that I left the cat sit, I had sent a message to a friend who had offered many times her place if I needed it, right? She's like, you definitely can stay with me if you need it. So I sent a message to her, but I didn't know if she was going to get back to me. I didn't know anything. And I'm looking online and I had a little bit of money, but here was the big dilemma. Do I spend it all on one night? Um, and then have no money tomorrow. Like there was just so many questions of like what takes precedent, what do I do? And for me, this thought kept coming up, which was when I first told my parents the truth about how I'm living. This was last summer, and I mentioned in the beginning I did not tell them, and then all of a sudden I tell them, and then it was very uncomfortable and all this stuff. But my dad specifically said to me, you have to promise me if you ever need help that you will call. And I said, yes. And I made this promise, even though in my head I thought, I'm never going to call. Like, I've done it on my own this whole time. Like, no, I'm going to do it on my own. Don't worry. But thanks anyway, Dad. You know what I mean? So here I was. This thought came up, just call him, tell him the truth, tell him what happened, ask for help. Like, and that's when I just exploded into tears. I go to the bathroom, and it was like I created this story around what it means if I were to ask for help. It meant that I couldn't do it on my own. It meant that I was a failure. It meant that I didn't fully trust the universe. It meant that somehow I owe him something. He's going to try to, throw it in my face, all of this story, 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 suffering, suffering. I'm crying. I'm like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. But just the thought alone that I would receive his help, I felt a little bit of relief. I really felt a little relief. Then I thought, you know what? Use that little relief and book a place, even if it's a hostel, just like book something for tonight. I go online, all of a sudden, no more hostel beds. And by the way, hostels in Paris are still expensive. It's like 70 euros to share an eight bunk bed mixed sex. And I'm like, it just is so crazy. Anyways, then I'm at Starbucks. I say this because there's some air conditioning in Starbucks. And I'm like, I just keep scrolling Facebook, right? That's how I get cat sits. That's how I get last minute sublets. Scroll, scroll, scroll. I'm anxious. I'm frustrated. It's like 7:30 at night. And then all of a sudden I get this weird email that's from this I used to belong to this like manifestation group called To Be Magnetic. I don't know, maybe you've heard of it. Anyways, but I let go of that years ago during the pandemic. All of a sudden I get this email from them saying we're going online on YouTube, and I thought it was so weird. It was just so weird that I clicked on it because I thought maybe there's a message here for me. So I click on it, and for those few minutes I moved from anxious and stressed and fearful into receiving, into maybe there's a message. I don't know if it was hope, but it felt like I was curious, right? So I shifted my energy for those few moments just to watch whatever they had to say. And even though like I was like, I don't know what they're talking about, or it's not helping, and I clicked right out, in those few moments, that's when all these things came through. My friend got back to me. She's like, of course you can stay, come by when you're ready, blah, blah, blah. Another friend reached out and said, hey, have you found a place yet? If not, you're welcome to stay at my place. So I had two potential places to stay. And then a third was on Facebook, there was a last minute cat sit that was going to happen maybe 4 days away on that Monday, right? I think it was a Thursday on that Monday. And I was like, this is great. So I talk to the cat owner woman, and it turns out she needs a couple of different times. Like she's going on vacation a few times in the month. So I'm like, great, right? There's like few open spots where I would need to find other accommodation, but for the most part, she was going to work with me. And I was like, this is amazing, right? So then I'm like, oh my God, this is so great. Fell asleep. I was like so relieved. I ended up staying with my friend. I had a birthday. I turned 51. Hi. During this time. And then I go to the cat sit. Now, before I went to the cat sit, I receive a request on this paid pet sitting service that would literally fit right in between the two cat sits. So I had agreed to do this one cat sit for 5 nights, and then 4 days later to do a week. Same woman, right? Same cats. And this request came right in those 4 days, but it was a 5 day request, which meant the last night I was going to have to do both. And I thought, well, I can swing it. I can let her know what's going on. And this was a dog sit. So I'm like, I'll just let her know. And I'm sure it's fine to leave the cat for one night, just to like help me out. So I have a combination, right? Anyways, that was a wrong assumption. I'm going to just quickly go through because I want to get into the story, what was being asked of me, and what was my healing. And so during this time, they were not happy. And something in me just felt very strongly that I created this boundary. I was like, this is what happened. I accepted it on that last night. This is what I can do. I will stay here until, I have to go to the dog sit, and then I'll come right back in the morning and stay with them. And then they were coming that day. I didn't think it was such a big deal. And it just went on and on around. It would just felt unreasonable. Like the conversation was just unreasonable. And I just kept sticking with the boundary. I kept going, I have to take care of me. What am I going to do? I didn't have funds in those 4 nights. This came through. Like, I'm going to come back, all of these things. I admitted that I didn't handle it properly. I admitted that I probably should not have accepted it without letting them know or whatever. But I also understand that, like, you don't have to be perfect. And ultimately, I chose myself. I did not abandon myself. And that created a lot of um, just a lot of problems because they were not understanding. And so, bottom line is, when I left, there was a wrath of emails and texts and just like on and on and on of harassing and threatening. And I mean, it was unbelievable to me. At the same time, I understood I am moving through this so differently because I wasn't backing down. Normally I would overplease, overcompensate, and I wasn't doing that. I was like, no, I already apologized. I already said this is what I can do. It's up to you now, you know? Like, and yeah, it was crazy. So I'm moving through all of this. On the very last night I was there, I had the appeal, which I've never moved through an appeal before, having to represent myself. Anyways, I think it goes well. I leave, but I'm just like full of tension, just like in knots, because it's a new thing for me to sit with discomfort and tension of people being mad at me or upset with me and not doing anything to fix it. Like holding my own, like staying strong with what I believe to be true for me. And in the end, it all ended up working out where they got somebody on that last night. I was able to leave, clear. I go to the dog sit. I'm at the dog sit, and I'm still like unraveling everything that's happened because it's still energy, right? It's energy all knotted up. By the last night of my dog sit, I have $12 and I have no place again to go. I mean, here we are, just literally a week later, so fast. And I was like, okay, I couldn't even go on Facebook. Any notification from my phone, I was like traumatized again because it was like I kept getting these notifications from them. Of course, I blocked them and everything, but I was traumatized. So I just turned off all notifications. I'm like, I cannot look at Facebook. I cannot look at my phone. I'm going to do this totally differently. I'm just going to trust somehow it works out. I'm going to the park. I'm going to relax. So when I left that dog sit, I went to the park, and all I said to myself was just be present with whatever comes up without trying to change it or stop it. Again, working with the sensation and then seeing and separating the story. Again, you can have your story or you can have your healing, but you can't have both. So I really was fully present. And there was a voice that said to me, that came through, that was like, if it gets late, call your dad. Just ask him for money. Point blank, you're not going to suffer. It was very clear to me. I reached out to another friend. I reached out to somebody I didn't know. I'm looking online. I'm like, I can't do much with $12. You know what I mean? I don't know the state of when everything was all unknown. And around 9 o'clock, I really understood that it was the story I had around calling my father and asking for help that was in my way, that was creating suffering. And all I had to do was just like let that go. So I call him. I said, Dad, you said I can call you if I needed your help. I need your help. Can you send me this amount of money? No problem. Sends me that amount of money. Now, this is what was interesting. It's around 9 p.m. and it's hot in the city, right? I'm sure you've heard about the Paris heat. So I'm like, I thought I'd be able to find something right away. No, for whatever reason, this night and then the next night, it's like two of these big tech conferences here. So every place was booked unless you wanted to pay like 400 euros per night. So it's getting late. I find this hotel over by Republic that has air conditioning, and I'm looking, I'm searching, and I'm just like, I'm still anxious. Like it's not going away, even after I've received help, you know? And finally, after midnight, something came up that was a little bit reasonable. I think it was like 180 a night, and it was in the 17th. So I rush over, I book it. Apparently, 10 people were supposed to show up and they didn't show up, and it was like a miracle. And within 10 minutes, everything was booked again. I booked the place. I ended up, it has air conditioning, and I'm like so relieved, but I couldn't sleep. It's like asking for help, accepting the help caused another level of anxiety in me. I thought, this is so weird. Like, what is happening? There's something around, I don't feel safe receiving, specifically, probably from my dad, but it could be just receiving in general. Because I look back at like these flashes of moments where I don't want to be a burden. I always want to be, and this ties into that cat sit, overcompensating, over apologizing, over the top of like, no, 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 I'll be fine. I don't need to use your coffee. Like trying not to use anything, trying to bring my own stuff, just feeling uncomfortable, feeling like I owe them, even though I'm there to help them take care of their pets. There's like this weird, these are exchanges for accommodation. You don't get paid most of the time. And this was a Facebook ad. It wasn't on an actual site. So anyways, I'm just going through all of these moments of like how much I make myself smaller to be accommodating. And where does that leave me? And that is why I believe this time around, when I was like, no, I'm not going to, because they kept saying, try to get somebody else for that first night. If I did that, the whole thing would blow up and I would have nowhere to go for those 4 nights in between. And I said, no, I said, I'm not going to do that. I accepted it. And that's why that wrath had to show up, because it was the first time I was choosing myself. And I was saying, I'm not going to do that. I will not do that. And I didn't care what the consequences, what would happen. And that was losing multiple accommodations, for the next few weeks, the next month. But I didn't care. Something in me knew that this wasn't right, that it was beyond. And look what happened, So I feel like I was saved, But anyways, so I'm at this place where I'm noticing the correlation between, I still didn't necessarily feel relief. It felt like I was still anxious around it. So, okay, we'll put that aside. The next day, I couldn't find anything in Paris. It was crazy. So I ended up finding a place an hour away in this cute little town that had, it was a hotel. It was a B&B that I could afford, that had air conditioning. I stayed there for 3 nights. As the first night I stay there, now this is a week after I had the appeal. On that next morning, I got the word that I fucking won the appeal. I won. And I was like, finally a victory, And it just felt so good because, again, like I did it on my own. I handled it. Yeah, it just felt like such a huge relief. But of course, I don't know when they're gonna send me the money or anything like that, the money back, the whole thing. But whatever, I'm so happy that I have the appeal now. Hello. Did I ever think in a million years I'd buy a paper fan? But hi, welcome to the Paris heat wave that has been crazy, although today has been nice. Okay, so I finally a win, right? So something in me is so confused because this journey, it's like again, the rug gets pulled out from underneath. I thought it was about, I don't have to ask for help. Help is already available to me. All I have to do is align my vibration to the help or to the solution, and it shows up. And here I was asking my dad, which I never thought in a million years. Remember, I had this promise. Even though I said I would do it, I was like, I'm not going to ask you for help. Like, no, this is about me being able to do it on my own. So it's like the mind is going, it's very confused. It's like, what does this mean? And what is this journey now? And what is it about? I mean, I remember I just felt like I was stuck in this boat in the middle of this vast ocean and I had no idea which direction to go in. Like, that's how much this is fundamentally, on a cellular level, it's threatening to my identity, to my ego, this identity that I have built, which says I can do it on my own. Hands down, that is the identity that has kept me separate, has kept me probably in a state of scarcity because I'm always thinking I can do it on my own. So I don't ask for help. Or if I do ask for help, I make it mean that I owe them in some way, or I'm going to be really, really over the top, apologetic, or be over the top, thankful, and, etc. And when it's like, I just keep getting the message that the story is what's keeping the suffering happening. And if I can just stay with being present to what is and letting that story go. And by the way, it's not an easy thing. There's a reason I have built this story. It's years and years and layers and layers and layers of protection, right? Of guard, of saying I'm never going to feel that way again. And that way meaning vulnerable to, I don't know, somebody saying no, vulnerable to people being mad at me, vulnerable to somebody saying I owe them, whatever it is, all of those uncomfortable emotions that I just don't want to feel, or that my identity doesn't want to feel again. That's why it says, oh, we don't have to ask for help. We do everything on our own. Meanwhile, this whole journey is about connecting to the fully abundant nature of who I really am, which is that we are all one, which just means I cannot choose, like, oh, I'll take abundance from this person, but not from this person, or I'll take it in this circumstance, but not in this circumstance. Like, no, that's being the separate self. That's pulling me away from the wealth and well-being of abundance, and that we truly are, that what this universe is made of. So all of this to say, I'm choosing the healing. I'm choosing to release the story, and I know it's going to be a process, because all of this had to come up in order for me to see it so clearly, that it was my pride. It was my pride that just wanted so badly to prove to my father I can do it on my own, that was keeping me locked in limitation. And I'm choosing differently now. So, if you got through all that, bravo. So that's the end of this video, and yeah, comment below. Let me know if you resonate. Let me know your thoughts. And here's to more wins. Take care, everyone.